It all began on December 20th, 1968 at around 11 p.m. near Vallejo, California, when 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Jensen were brutally murdered. People didn't know that this murder was just the beginning. Over the past months, countless people had been killed by a killer who called himself the Zodiac. There were survivors, but they couldn't clearly identify the man. As if that wasn't enough, the Zodiac sent coded letters to the newspapers for the police and even mocked them. These ciphers were printed in the newspapers in due time, and some of them were solved by volunteers, even before the experts. But there was one such cipher. For years, no one could find it until 9 months ago when David Oranchak decrypted it after 51 years, and it was one of the most difficult encryptions in history. Algorithms were created and programs were written for it. But there was one thing that made it impossible to decrypt, and that was the spelling mistakes made by the Zodiac Killer between paragraphs while encrypting. But still, with the cooperation of David Oranchak and experts in the field, the encryption of this letter was completely decrypted. So I tried to make a documentary after the decryption of these ciphers, and after a week of research, I made a video, which was a documentary-like video about Zodiac and trying to figure out his motivation. And the second video was a detailed investigation video about how the cipher in the letter was decrypted, in which I explained everything down to every algorithm, and the killer was detected by retired FBI agents in the past days. This detection was the Casebreakers. This is a group of 40 people known as a group of retired FBI agents and a volunteer team of experts in their field. There are other cases that they have solved before, and according to them, there are more than 250,000 unsolved cases in the United States, and every year 6,000 more of these unsolved cases continue to be added, and this is due to the lack of personnel in the United States. And they are establishing a group to solve these mysterious cases. Thus, they examine mysterious cases such as the Zodiac Killer and clarify the situation. After years of research, they determined that the killer was Gary Francis Poste, but Gary Francis Poste had already died in 2018. The team that searched my private property seized some photos of him in the darkroom Adena. If you know, darkrooms are special rooms made for old analog cameras. There is a red light, which does not affect the films, and after washing the films with certain chemicals, you can access the photos so that you can print them on photographic paper. The digital cameras used today, even the ones we use now, first appeared in 1989, replacing analog cameras. If we consider that he started killing, only analog cameras were used at that time, and a photo found at home by retired FBI agents proves that Poste is the killer. Let's look at the sketch of the Zodiac Killer. At the very beginning, it looks like there are wrinkles on his forehead, but they are actually scars, and they match with a photo of Gary from an analog camera. Jerry also has scars on his forehead. Later, the police investigate this situation, and they find out that Jerry Poste was injured in a car accident in '59 and was injured on his forehead. According to Thomas J. Colbert, a former Army counterintelligence expert who worked in counterintelligence, other evidence includes the decryption of letters sent by the Zodiac that revealed that he was the killer. We already knew of a coded letter that contained the killer's name, and that cipher was very short, but it could not be decrypted compared to other types of ciphers. And that's because you need to know the killer's full name so you can crack the code. Because that's the key word. And it's a clever trick set up by the Zodiac because you need to know the full name of the Zodiac Killer in order to decipher the cipher. And some parts of the letters I sent to you consisted of meaningless sentences, according to one of the experts who solved the case. And the team believes that Cherry Joe Bates was one of the victims of the Zodiac Killer, a murder that occurred 2 years before the first known Zodiac murder. A murder that took place on October 31st, 1966 in Riverside, hundreds of miles south of San Francisco. 18-year-old Bates is being hunted around Riverside after his father reports him missing to the police. As the cops search for Bates, they find him dead in an alleyway on the City College campus. But no killer is found, and the team begins to sort through the coincidences between Poste and Bates. 15 minutes away, He was an Air Force veteran at the time of medical checks for an armed incident at a hospital. There was also a wristwatch at the scene with a paint stain on it. Poste is also known to have painted houses for more than 40 years to make money, while the Zodiac Killer was at the scene in a military boat. The Casebreakers team goes to the Riverside Police Department with this evidence, but the police department says there's nothing in this still open case that has anything to do with the Zodiac Killer, and they refer them to the FBI. The group is a group of retired FBI agents and experts in the field, but it is a group that cannot take official action, and according to later developments, no further details will be given as investigations on this case are still ongoing. Those looking at the case add that they think Bates is the 6th victim of the Zodiac Killer, adding that the Zodiac Killer has already killed 37 people. There were a lot of unsolved murders, and Zodiac didn't have a style, and after he established his style, he was already understood. Maybe after his first killings, when he established a style, he caught the attention of the cops, and we recognized him as Zodiac. And after all the evidence, he told Poste's neighbors Molly. When Guvin was a baby, his mother used to drop him off at the house of Poste, who lived next door. And Poste and his wife used to take good care of Guvin, and even talk to him often. According to Guvin, Poste used to have an overly controlling and abusive approach to his wife. He even taught him how to fire the gun. After all the evidence, the trust stated that he thought Poste was the Zodiac Killer. The Poste couple, the killer who lived his life, was an anonymous person, like Batman, like Spider-Man. And we later learned that Poste had a gang and was the head of the gang, and he threatened people. He was intimidating them. And now, some of the gang members, under certain protection, said that he was the Zodiac. He took a gang of innocent people and turned them into killing machines. Let's get to the interesting part of it. I don't know how true it is. But in 2017 and 2018, there were some people on some forums who blamed Poste exactly. They wrote things like, "Have you ever researched this guy?" They wrote things like, "He's a close friend of one of these killers." But of course you can go and see that Ted Bundy is one of the most famous killers. One of them wrote that they are making a movie for that man, they are making a documentary, and they wrote that he went and gave him a star, and wrote a comment like, "No, Ted Bundy is very overrated. He is very overrated." That's a false lie. It's a false lie. It's an event that they put a little bit like this to be shared on the internet, to be funny. There are events like this that he is a Lady Gaga fan. So this man is not a Lady Gaga fan. This is a murderer. Yes, it would be strange to come out like that, but they are completely in goy. And the more interesting part is that a movie was made on behalf of Zodiac in 2007. This movie includes celebrities like Gyllenhaal. Considering that the man died in 2018, he must have seen the movie that was made for him in 2007. The man has definitely heard around that a movie about Zodiac is coming out. If he hasn't seen it, it's very funny. If he has seen it, it's funny. Either way, it's a very interesting situation because they are making the movie for you, but they don't know who you are. And you watch it and you say, they did it wrong here, as I said before. Dunbar had a television program and they claim that they talked to the Zodiac Killer, Dunbar. And they tell events like, the Zodiac Killer has such a strange personality and personality disorder. But it's for ratings, because in the Zodiac letters it says that I wasn't the person on the television program. It comes in one of these encrypted messages that is decrypted years later, that is, decades later. If you look at the letter that was decrypted after 51 years. It was not known that they were lying for ratings. Dunbar. I don't know if he's dead now, but I don't know if he's going to damage his reputation. I don't know if he's going to damage his reputation. I just realized that he was making fake news. And there's this event in the movie. I mean, in 2007, the movie Zodiac comes out, and there's Dunbar's scene. There's Zodiac's invitation to the television program. And the guy watched this movie and said, "Oh, this is so bad. It doesn't tell me about me." Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope all the information you want to know about what is happening to us has been laid out to you in this way. Everything I have told now is everything that happened in the lists in the files Casebreakers gave us, so I told neither more nor less. And in the following process, Developments will continue according to the tips given by the team and FBI agents. And if there are any developments, we will be happy to inform you about this as the Dark Files channel.